Okay, so what are you saying, people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen, other pairs will be analyzed today, but make sure you do stay to the end of the video, as I do have a bonus pair in store. I didn't take any trades this week. It was a very busy week for me off the charts, so I didn't find the time to be on the charts looking for my setups. So I was very busy, so I didn't take any trades, but next week is looking pretty interesting, especially the momentum we've seen just as the week has ended with USD, JPY, CHF. So we're seeing some nice moves across the market, which means opportunity. So we'll get right into it this week. No trades to report on. We'll start with the DXY to see how dollar has ended the week. And we did close pretty bearish. As we can see, really big drop to the downside, and I am anticipating more of the same going to next week. A lot of conviction there, breaking through the lows, and I'm hoping that possibly this is now the start of a nice bearish trend, which could possibly end up taking us back to the low here. Again, I've talked about this ascending channel here for the DXY, which we broke out a long time ago, but we're having real trouble at this support level, and prices finally cracked that with this candle. So I think the floodgates can open. We've been very stagnant for dollar for a while, and typically after a range we do get the breakout, and that's when the momentum kind of spills over. So hopefully we can see price pick up a nice downtrend. This will be the first major target around 102,500, and then we can possibly start speaking about this area. But again, I'm still taking it week by week, day by day with the dollar, because generally speaking the market is very choppy, but I am anticipating a bearish trend to start to form. So next major target is back at the lows. If I drop to the 4 hour, the setup I'll be looking at is retest of this low or this low here, and then looking for downside. But of course, we're not looking to trade the DXY, we're looking to trade the dollar crosses. And first up, we've got the euro. So euro looking at the exact opposite, really looking for a pullback, retest some structure and continuation. Really strong move this week to the upside, breaking out this descending channel. If I quickly scoot to the daily chart, you can see we do have some bullish structure on the daily chart. It's just been very corrective, but it looks like momentum's creeping back in. Possibly could be seeing another higher high in the sequence, and maybe again a bit of a bullish trend in the opposite direction to the DXY. So what I want to see some corrections, because this is a lot of momentum, so I need to see price have a bit of a breather. This is my first area of interest, that high there around 108,700, or this high 108,500. Either one will do, and I'll be looking at retest, bounce, and a continuation back to the swing high, and possibly this area here as well around 109,800 as a high target we could probably aim for in the week if euro is very bullish. But this is what I'm looking at. Really nice setup, good confidence there. DXY is really in sync with euro at the moment, and things are looking a lot clearer for dollar, I must admit, and some other dollar pairs. Still not the biggest fan, but at least euro looks a lot better to me. I haven't been a big fan of it as of late, but things are starting to clear up. So keeping a close eye on 108,700, 108,500 as areas to look for buys. But yeah, I want to see a pullback, and I'm expecting a lot more upside next week for euro. Okay, so on to USD JPY. So very bearish this week. I was looking for a bounce, as we did have some nice confidence in the higher time frames, but the market just did not obey that area. We had the nice level of resistance there. We also had a long-standing trend line on the weekly chart connecting the higher lows here. And as you can see, really strong bearish candle this week, just breaking straight through. So going into next week, we probably can expect more of the same. Some pullbacks, yes, are likely, because the market is quite stretched to the downside. We've had a pretty hefty fall, but I would only be looking at sells, and the two areas I would look at, preferably this one, but I'm well aware the momentum might just see us have a slight pullback and we might just continue. I've been looking for some fairly meaningful pullbacks over the past week, just haven't really seen that, to be honest. So looking at this area could be a likely area where we come back into, see some rejection, and be on our way. If we have a bigger pullback, maybe we see some bullish momentum at some point this week, then we can probably discuss 152 up here. But generally speaking, we're just looking for places where a lower high is realistic, where the market is likely to reject and likely to continue its general path to the downside. So yeah, very bearish on USD JPY right now. The market closed bearish, so we're looking for it to find a floor at some point, whether it will be here or we might push down another few 20, 30, 40 pips. But we're looking at these areas here for some shorts, so keep close eye on 149, 152, and wherever we form that bottom, wherever we form that swing low, will then be the target for the trade. So that is the plan next week for dollar yen. Okay, so over to dollar CAD. So dollar CAD is trading at major resistance, and I do think we can see some downside. If I actually go to the weekly chart, you can see this better. Really strong resistance over here, big move down, almost there, big move down. We hit it again, big move down. And as you can see this week, we just about tested that area. So I do think this is the area where we could see some downside. Maybe price gives us one last push to the upside, but generally speaking, this is the area where I do think dollar CAD has a good chance of reversing, given the fact that DXY looks like it's got a nice down path to it. So I do think dollar can start seeing more weakness, and that could help out USD CAD downside. Of course, CAD has a big part to play. If CAD's going to be weak too, or even weaker, then it will be hard for dollar CAD to see some downside. But generally speaking, this is a great place for shorts from a technical standpoint alone. So keep a close eye on 1.388. If we can come there again, potentially spike through the high, that could be what you're looking for some selling opportunities. You can see price is already quite tight. We've had a big spill to the downside there. So this big up move here might just be a kind of anticlimactic move, taking out some stop losses above the high, testing a bigger level, and then possibly some downside from there on out. So going forward into next week, I would be anticipating some downside from this area. And again, targets, if you want to play it safe, back to this low here looks good. Although, if we're actually going to sell off here, there is a long way to go. But if you're looking for something realistic, something that could be done next week, and push back into 1.38 there makes a lot of sense. So yeah, dollar CAD short bias, trading at a really big level. I'm bearish on the dollar as well, so that could help out. And if we can hold this area, I do think we can see a big reversal. So keep a close eye on this area at 1.388, expecting a move back down to 1.381 next week. Okay, so Euro pound was really bullish this week, big moves to the upside. I was expecting some shorts this week, which we did kind of see for a little bit. I was expecting a push to this low, didn't quite happen. We got kind of halfway there before price exploded to the upside. Pound was very weak, Euro was very strong, and of course that caused a big move higher. However, we are coming to a nice level where on the weekly chart, it makes a lot of sense for us to still be expecting downside. If you look at this trend line here, connecting the dots, 1, 2, possibly 3. And of course, lovely support over here, which of course will be now time resistance. So from a weekly standpoint, we're coming into a really nice area of structure, area of confluence where we could see price roll over. Now, Euro pound is a choppy pair, so I do think it might stay there for a little bit, a few days, maybe a couple of weeks before we do get the big sell-off. So we might be kind of sideways a little bit, which is why I don't always like trading Euro pound. But if we can hold this area, I do think the bigger move lies to the downside. So drop into the 4 hour, generally speaking, looking for entries from here. You can wait for a nice double top, want to see a bit more rejection, and then we can be looking at entries to this type of opportunity, because what we're saying is that we don't expect price to break through this. So if we do push up and see rejection, that is effectively where we want to place our entries and stop loss above that area, because we don't want to see price break through. If it does break through, then that kind of invalidates the whole opportunity anyway. In terms of targets, I would say this area looks logical, because if I was a buyer, this is kind of where I would want to buy. Such an impulsive move there, broke through key structure, haven't come back to retest it. If you do see a nice corrective pullback into that area, that could be a nice buy as well. So from a bullish standpoint, this would be a nice place for a buy, and from a bearish standpoint, that'd be a nice place for a take profit. So that's around 0.846. Keep that in mind. Like I said, we could be just making our way back to the low, so you might want to leave some positions to trail, or that'll be up to you. But in terms of direction, in terms of what I'm expecting next week, bit of sideways price action as we start to stall at this area, and eventually a move back down to 0.846 is what I'm looking for next week. Okay, so over to Aussie dollar. So Aussie dollar, I'm looking for a pullback and some downside. This one is a bit awkward because for dollar, I'm really bearish on dollar. So effectively, the dollar crosses, I'll be expecting upside. And I do expect upside for Aussie dollar, but I think it's most likely a pullback rather than a huge reversal. So I'm looking for sells after a pullback high. We had a really big move to the downside the past couple of weeks. and the market is becoming quite corrective now. So I do think a push higher is likely, but at the same time, I do think it'll be a lower high for the market to push back down, or at least give us a good sell. It might not come back right to the low, but again, with a trading stop loss or a partial system, you can still profit on the way down. It doesn't have to get to your overall target, for you to make a profit on the trade or a win on the trade. So in terms of a smart place for a short, I'm looking to retest of this low or this low here. It just depends on the pullback, depends on the market, how aggressive we are with the pullback, which area will look good, and price action as well play a big part as to whether I short at this area or wait to see price will push higher to this area before a sell. But the idea is to wait for a pullback, take out some of the weaker lower highs over there in this kind of corrective channel, and then find some shorts at that area. So yeah, waiting for some upside for Aussie dollar, but my bias is different with this one as compared with euro and pound, because quite frankly Aussie has just been so weak, and they're kind of trading in different directions anyway on the 4-hour daily charts anyway. So a little bit of unexpected, unsynchronized price action between some of these dollar pairs, but fundamentally, there's a different kettle of fish with Aussie's situation, with New Zealand dollar situation compared to euro and pound. So we are moving in different directions, but from a technical standpoint, the sales look good, and as a technical trader, if I see a good setup, I'm going to take it. So 0.658 looks good, 0.662 looks good. Let's see if we can get some upside back to those areas, look for some shorts, and hopefully a swing back to the low, back to where we came from next week. Okay, so over to NZD CAD. So NZD CAD's in a real nice area for a short. I wasn't expecting price to get there this week, but it did. For sells, I'm looking for a bigger move back into this low for NZD CAD on the daily chart. So I'm still looking for more downside, and I've been discussing a possible retest of this area. I just wasn't expecting price to get there. And yes, we did, and we actually pushed past it a little bit. But what I'm liking is that the market is quite correct in this move. I like the wicks, I like the rejection we're seeing. So what I'll be looking for NZD CAD next week would be another push higher, rejection, and then looking for that as an area for an entry, stop loss above the high, and then looking to swing the trade back to where we came from, which is this swing low here. And of course, maybe looking to see if we can push it into that daily target as well, if all things are running smoothly. But in terms of the direction for NZD CAD, we had a really big drop, price come back into some structure, looking for a rejection and a continuation back to the low. For me, it fits the plan really, really well. So yeah, keeping a close eye on NZD CAD. It's kind of like prices retesting some areas up here as well, which is great because we're coming back to retesting price structure, which we had a nice breakout, but we didn't have that retest of. So now we're getting that retest. Now there's a good chance we can react and see that continuation, and should be a pretty smooth move down back to the low. There's not a lot of obstacles on our way either. So looking for an entry in this area here, hopefully a nice double top, or just retest the high. Maybe we might wick through, but something in that area there, looking for some opportunities to short, and a swing back to the low there next week at 0.812. Okay, so over to pound NZD. So pound NZD, we had a big move down, which is kind of expected. The market's been so bullish. We're due retracement. We've taken out some major highs. COVID wick high, we've taken out this high as well. So the chance of the market pulling back is pretty great, and that's what it looks like the market is going through at the moment. And we do have some really nice structure just below us on the daily chart, which I'm looking for us to test, and which could then end up being a nice place to buy as well if things look good. So what I want to see is a bit more downside for pound NZD, given the fact that we've been so impulsive with this move, and we've seen a pretty strong move down as well. This to me looks like possibly a big reversal coming through. So I want to be a little bit careful with the buys, not being too greedy, try and send the market right back to the high, because it may just be we push down, see a bounce, and then the bigger move might still be lower. So for pound NZD, I still want to look for some buying opportunities because we had a lovely impulsive leg, which I'll still look to try and see the continuation of. But I'm well aware that this retracement has definitely kind of thrown things has thrown things out of proportion a little bit, definitely for the buyers, because this is a really aggressive move down. So I want to see a bit more downside for pound NZD back to that level firstly, and then that's what I'll look for my buys, and we'll see what happens from there. Are we trading a stop loss? So, you know, best case scenario, we swing it back to the highs. Worst case scenario, we take a loss, or anything else in between. We'll see some upside in our direction. Market forms a low high and pushes against us, and we take another trade for a small win or whatever it would be at the time. So I'm happy with the area. The area looks good. We hadn't had the retest of that level, so we're likely for a bounce. It just depends how far the market wants to bounce at this point, but waiting just a little bit longer to see if we can get a retest of 2.12, 2.126, which is where I want to find my entry, and then we can look for a buys. If all things are well, possibly a swing back to the high. Like I said, there are quite a few obstacles in the way, so I'd keep an eye on that area there, this area here as well, and some targets. Even if you form a high here, that could be a nice target there as well, but we can probably make a better judgment of that during the week. So yeah, keep an eye on 2.126 for an area for a long, and looking for some continuation to the upside next week. Okay, so for CAD yen, it's a similar situation with dollar yen, which we had a look at. I'm looking for some retests of some structure, for some sells. That is one area I'm considering, and this is another. If the market is just very bearish and we're just seeing so much momentum, we might be lucky just to get retracement to this area before a move down. If the market wants to have a bit of a breather this week, which I think is likely because we've just been falling like it's running out of fashion. There's such a huge move down. I feel like we can have a bigger pullback next week. If that's the case, then I'll be looking at more around 110 for a place for a sell, but we've broken through some key structure. I said last week I was looking for a bounce as we were approaching this area, but that did not hold and we went straight through. So I'm looking for more downside. There's just so much momentum with the bears right now with CAD yen and pretty much all the yen pairs in general. So if we do see some upside, the likelihood is that it will be a lower high at some point. So the thing we're looking for, the opportunity we're looking for, is to try and catch when that lower high reprinted, execution wise, find the entry, stop loss, and then ride that to the downside. That is very much the plan. And depending where that low forms, if we pull back from here, for example, the swing low will then be the new target, and possibly you can leave some runners to go if the yen pairs continue falling. But right now there's just so much momentum, just looking for that next pullback, either at 108, 100 or 110, and looking to swing it back into the swing low for next week. Okay, so next up we've got pound USD. So pound USD, I've been looking for buys. I've been looking for a big swing to the upside, trying to look for this structure to continue. Impulse, pullback, impulse, pullback, impulse, possibly another pullback for another impulse. So that has been the plan. However, it's been difficult. The market's been really slow. Then it picked up to the downside. This still could just be a massive pullback of that swing, but it's difficult to find that bottom, that low, to get involved. So what I want to see is a similar situation to what's happened with Euro USD. If this is just a big correction of that pullback, I kind of want to see price commit to the upside, break structure, which will then be this high here, and then find some entries on the flip to then continue to the upside. I was looking for that low, but because we had such a strong move down and things have got out of proportion, it's now a little bit more difficult, and we've broken through some key areas which I was looking to buy from anyway. The low I was looking to buy from was this area here, which we broke through, so the setup was invalidated, but it might just be in a bit of an anticlimactic move just to take out some early buys, and now be on our way in a similar situation to what Euro USD is doing. So if that's the case, let's break structure to the upside, and then we've got some lovely highs which will come support and come areas which we can look to find entries on, and then try and take it back to the high there at 1.3 something, 303, and be on our way. And yeah, very much a similar opportunity to Euro USD. We just haven't got that break of structure, that breakout yet. So looking for that to happen for pound. If it doesn't happen, I'm not really interested in the pair anyway. I think I'll just focus on euro anyway. So I want to see that for pound, get some pullbacks going, and then looking for some opportunities back into that swing high for next week. Okay, so next up we've got pound CAD. So pound CAD, I was favoring price to see some downside this week, and we did sell off. Just didn't quite see a nice entry off the back of that. Well, there was a brief one in the lower time frames. It just came back for a nice retest of the low, pushed down, respected the low, and pushed back up again. So didn't go too far. And based on the new price action we've had, this impulsive leg, Looks like price is trying to print another higher low in to push higher. So what I will be expecting next week for pound CAD is another push back to the high at 1.782. We didn't quite make it into this high here. I said that could be a nice target for the sells because that was our price swing high. We broke through, never have a retest of that area. So the market could be attracted to that, and it was to a degree, just didn't quite make it before it's looking bullish again. So I think we're going to see some more upside next week for pound CAD, but we're still in that general area for sells. If I quickly go to the weekly chart, maybe the monthly might be better. No, weekly's good. You can see we're just generally in this area of resistance. So again, sells do look good because what we're anticipating is the market to reject this area and have a bit of a breather in that bullish trend. It's an aggressive trade because, you know, effectively we're shorting a bullish market, but at the same time you're shorting from a really nice place, and if everything works out, could be starting and catching a really nice swing from a bearish standpoint, because that's where the market is likely to complete reverse and maybe start a new bearish trend from. So the overall idea for a big swing makes sense. It's just an aggressive trade because the market is still seeing higher highs and higher lows, so it definitely is going against the flow of the market at the moment. But if we see more rejection like we did previously, if I extend this across, you can see the market came once, second, briefly a third, maybe not quite, but is overall holding that level at resistance. So we'll see what price does on the next attempt, third, fourth attempt. This could end up still being a nice place for a short. But again, in terms of targets, I would say keep a close eye on this area because this is kind of where the market was ranging in. So we might just see another push back to this area before the market, you know, goes bullish again. So that could be your first target there. And if you see a break, maybe you can look to hold positions on back to that next low. But this is still a nice place for a sell. It's just I would be pretty careful knowing that the market could still break out and the trend can continue. All I know is that we're at a really nice place on the higher time frames where a reversal could come in, but the price action will tell us if that's the case or not. So let's see how we get there. Do we start rejecting? Do we start throwing some wicks like we did previously? If we do, fantastic. Shorts are back on. If not, you know, stick on the sidelines. We may be breaking out and we may be trending still to the upside. So that's what I'll be looking at next week for pound CAD. Okay, so on to pound yen. So pound yen, the analysis is pretty much the same as CAD yen and dollar yen in terms of we're seeing so much momentum. We're looking for a breather to continue that. We're seeing some really hefty falls to the downside, one over there, second over there. So again, looking for a pullback. This is the first area I would consider. Again, it's a bit of a shallow pullback given the context of the market, but because we're so bearish and not seeing much upside, we may just come back, tag this area at 191 and continue that fall. If we do have a bit of a bullish week next week for the yen pairs, which would make sense since they've been so bearish, then we might see a bigger retracement and price may come up to some of these areas around 196 for pound yen, which still looks a great short. If that does happen, the risk reward will be even better if we can swing it back to the low from where we came. So pound yen looks like a good short to me. 191, 196 would be the areas I would consider shorting. And again, in terms of targets, it's wherever we pull back from. If we pull back from this low, that would be a nice place for a short, and anticipating a push back to the swing low. But still very bearish on pound yen for next week. Okay, so next up we've got gold. So gold's still looking bullish to me. Really nice move to the upside this week. We broke through the high over here. I was hoping to see one more push down for gold and then find some buys, but gold's just very bullish. This week it didn't need that push down. It broke through some structure, and now it's looking like it's coming back for a retest, which would be the setup I'm looking for next week. Hopefully we just don't fly. Hopefully we can come back down, retest it on Monday, see some entries there, and hopefully find some opportunities to get this back to the high. But I do think gold is likely to take out that high next week, see some new highs maybe at 2,500 and possibly break through that area there as well. But keeping a close eye on 2430, holding it so far, and I do think we'll continue that trend for next week. Okay, so on to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin really bearish this week as we failed to break through the highs on this descending channel. It's not looking good at all. Last week I was saying if we can break through this, potentially could be on our next bull run. If we don't, then I expect Bitcoin just to absolutely collapse. And that's kind of what we're seeing now. And that's not a good thing at all, because If this keeps up, we can probably break out of this and continue a lot further, back to 50k, maybe back to 48k, which is this high here as well. So in my opinion, it's not looking good at all. In terms of places to short from, I think the boat is kind of sailed as well. Effectively, you want to be in entries nearer to the high there, entering now as we kind of come to the 50% of that descending channel, which is marked with this line here. Becomes a little bit awkward because you might move sideways a little bit and have some unpredicted price action, but in terms of direction, I do think we'll probably keep falling. So maybe in the low time frames, if you're trying to look for some low time frame entries, maybe some retest of the lows here could look okay, but it wouldn't be as great as a trade if you were in at the high there, anticipating the market to reject that high in the first place. But we are rejecting it really well. Momentum looks bearish. Weekly, really strong shift there as well. So I think it's only a matter of time before we end up back at the low, and we'll probably look at more downside beyond that when we get there. But for now, euro pound, not euro pound. For now, Bitcoin, if you do get a pullback, keep an eye on the lower time frames for some retest. But I do see price continue to fall back to 54 and possibly 48k in the near future. And last up, we got our bonus pair, which for this week is Euro Swiss. So as you can see, a lot of momentum to the downside, similar situation as the yen pair, which is bleeding. Euro Swiss bleeding as well. I said I was looking at pullback into this area this week. Little did I know that price was not going to get anywhere near that before absolutely melting to the downside. So I'm looking for a similar pullback into this low here. I think it's a bit more likely because the market's a bit more stretched now. So the chances, the odds of seeing a bigger pullback are more likely. And in terms of targets, we do have I think this is the all-time low, if I'll double check in a second, but this is our swing low on the daily, weekly chart. So it's a really big low for the market. And if I expand to the monthly, yes, it is our all-time low. So a lot of the CHF pairs are very close to the all-time lows, if not making new ones. I think CAD CHF just made a new one. I think New Zealand CHF made a new one. I think Aussie CHF made a new one. So I think it's only a matter of time before the other CHF pairs follow, including Euro and Swiss. And CHF JPY has been making new all-time highs for a while now. So this one probably is destined to take out this low at some point. So it's just whether we'll get that pullback or not. If you're on the lower time frames, I'll probably keep an eye on this area here because that's just how bearish the market is. We might just see a couple 4-hour candles pushing up higher before we sell off, but preferably a retest of that structure would be nice before we do get a short. And then I'll be expecting it just to push into the low at 0.926. In these conditions, you can be a bit more aggressive with your take profits, with your targets, because there's a really good chance that we're going to get there anyway, and there's a lot of momentum in the market, so we're likely going to do it in one move as well. So you can be a bit more aggressive, but targets, of course, will be up to you. But that is where I do see Euro CHF ending up at. So yeah, keep a close eye on 0.93961 and 0.948. But I do see a lot more downside next week for Euro Swiss. And that, guys, does bring us to the end of the video. If you have found it useful, please be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Make sure you do comment below any pairs you're looking at. I'm interested to find out. Make sure you share it with your trading friends as well, so they're up to date with all the technical analysis for next week. But guys, really appreciate you tuning in. Have a great weekend, and I'll catch you all in the next one.